In 2005, my brother's YMCA soccer teammates, Ian and Elise, 8 and 10 years old, were expected in court to help settle a custody hearing with their parents. When they never showed up, it was discovered that their father, Deputy Paul Terry, shot and killed them before turning the gun on himself. After the mother's pleas for help and her recollections to the judge of abuse by Paul, the judge actually gave the father temporary custody instead. The stigma associated with mental illnesses has discouraged many from giving their loved ones the extra push they need to seek help, even if they display dangerous behavior. While families suffer in silence, they are encouraging global violence. Here in America, sadly, we're all too familiar with these events. With school shootings on the news every year, it's no surprise that we need to turn our attention to mental health. Today, I will be discussing why many patients are afraid to take the first step. I'll show you the correlation between unchecked mental health and violence around the world, and tell you what you can look for if you believe that your loved one might be suffering. Accepting help is a long journey, and even once you accept the fact you need help, you may not receive efficient help. According to an online article published by the USA Today, former US Congressman says in June of 2014 that by denying care to psychiatric patients, we're effectively telling the country that the mentally ill are less deserving of a decent life than others. After a patient plans to move forward, there are several steps left, such as going to your primary care doctor and being referred to a specialist. Because it is such a complex road to recovery, however, many question the credibility of these illnesses, which creates job barriers and barriers to status in society. In Asia, where family honor and pride rise above all, it can be very difficult to find a job. According to the Channel News Asia website, in October of 2014, the Singapore Association for Mental Health said that the amount of recovering patients that hold jobs is only at 9%. While author Lloyd Carthy recognizes this is a jump from 8% a year ago, it's still sad to say that they're not holding jobs for longer than 6 months. In the UK, these hardships are reciprocated. We find that in an Irish periodical in September of 2014 by author Carol Hunt, 65% of survey participants think that receiving mental care is a sign of a failure. Even more astonishing, only 54% of these people would consider being friends with someone with a mental illness. Unconventional treatment is needed to make a full recovery, and outlets such as writing a journal, exercising to alleviate symptoms, and going to group therapy with family is crucial. For many, admitting the first step is the most difficult, but for others, it's too late. South Africans Reva Steenkamp and Oscar Pistorius seemed happy. They seemed in love. She is a supermodel, and he is an Olympian. They seemed to have it all. But on Valentine's Day of 2013, Oscar Pistorius fired with 3 shots that would kill her while she hid in his bathroom. Clinical psychologist Dr. Jonathan Schultz investigates the case and found that Oscar had a long history of rage and paranoia, and concluded that without further medical care, he was at risk of suicide. And who could forget that fateful day in Sandy Hook, when so many innocent children lost their lives? Certainly not Peter Lanza, Adam Lanza's father. Although he was 20 when he committed this crime, he was showing signs of mental illness far before that. Diagnosed with sensory processing disorder as a child, tells us that his twisted perception on reality would set the undertones for Adam's childhood. Peter Lanza goes on to tell author Andrew Solomon in an interview with The New Yorker in March of 2014 that Adam wrote a book when he was in 5th grade, and not one line he will never forget. I like hurting people, especially children. One of the most recently notable catastrophes happened in Iguala, Mexico. On the CNN website, an online report in November of 2014 by reporters Mariano Castillo and Rafael Romo tell us more about what happened. 43 college students were protesting for school funding when they suddenly disappeared. Their police kidnapped them and turned them over to the drug cartels. Mexicans are outraged because these innocent victims had no criminal ties or background. The University of Glasgow in Scotland gives us an insight on why this could occur. Scientists on an online paper, The Independent, in May of 2014, told author Lizzie Dearden quoted Dr. Alley saying that mass killings should be thoroughly addressed using standardized tools for investigating neurodevelopmental disorders. With disaster on every continent, we must know specifically what signs to look for. According to the Mayo Clinic in 2014 website, extreme ups and downs, hallucination, and trouble concentrating are some of the signs that may let you know your loved one needs help. Risk factors such as genetics and traumatic experiences are also key to look for. Post-traumatic stress disorder, or PTSD, brings unwanted flashbacks, which you can look for in your loved ones. And depression is marked by a lack of interest and a generalized feeling of numbness. These illnesses lack physical symptoms, however. Some, like anxiety, can be easily camouflaged, such as the bipolar rapid mania speech. The PhD Carrie Bearden of the University of Los Angeles tells us that it may make it harder for loved ones to identify key items. In retrospect today, we discussed that we must turn our attention to mental health. It may be scary for some to admit a problem, but not addressing these problems impact the world in global violence. And we need to know when our friends need help. Today, when I drive past the YMCA, I think about Ian and Elise. I think about how sad they lost their lives at such a young age. I also think of their statue that was built in remembrance of them. And I think of why this could happen to such young children. But now I know what we can do, and you should know as well.